The minimum wage in this country at this point is almost laughable. It's so low. I mean, it would be laughable if it weren't tragic, because it is way too low to lift people above poverty, and it's even too low as of either last year or the year before. There was a study that came out that it is not possible anywhere in the U.S. now to rent a one-bedroom apartment with a full-time job at the minimum wage. So, I mean, it doesn't even provide the barest minimum. Human Rights Watch, the human rights organization, we tend to think of them as focusing on dictatorships in other parts of the world, but they actually issued a report in 2009 saying that it was urgent that the United States pass the Employee Free Choice Act, because workers' human rights to organize and improve their own conditions are being so systematically violated here that we're really an outlier in human rights on a world scale. So what the living wage concept does is bring the power of communities to bear to help working class people get fair living standards that they deserve and that they've earned, but that they aren't able to get because of the way the deck is so stacked against them. The way that I think about what's happening to our economy is it's like a scissors, you know, and some people are like, there's one end that's opening up where people are getting more and more, and then there's other people who are on the bottom side of that scissors who are just really struggling, and it isn't, we are not living in an economic and social system right now that is sustainable, I don't believe, as a historian. I mean, the levels of inequality have reached the point where they're radically affecting people's health, where they're affecting, you know, mental well-being, where they're affecting productivity, where they're affecting community stability, where they're affecting parents' ability to even spend time with their children. I mean, we hear these things about, you know, juvenile delinquency and things like that, but I mean, some parents don't even get to see their children before they go to bed, you know, much less do homework with them or spend quality time, because they have to work 2 and 3 jobs to survive. And now I'm not saying, you know, I don't know the exact figures at Northwestern on that front, but I know that Northwestern is operating in a labor market, a metropolitan labor market, where that is very much the reality, and this is not sustainable. I mean, we cannot have a cohesive society that can face the issues that we face in the 21st century with a setup like that. And I don't know, I sometimes think about it in terms of an ecosystem, and I think there's enough environmental consciousness now where people know that if you have an ecosystem in which one important part of that system starts to die or to struggle for its life, you know, and to send up these kind of alarms, the whole system ends up being affected, and that's where we are now, I think, with this issue. And we need to remember something we often forget that Dr. King said, which is that we are caught in inescapable networks, in an inescapable network of mutuality, and that what happens to one group of us will ultimately affect all of us, and if we're not mindful of that, we're heading for a really ugly future. Business has always argued through U.S. history, and I study, you know, all kinds of social movements, but I also study conservatives and I study business interests. Business has always said no to basically any progressive change, and certainly to things like minimum wage laws, maximum hour laws, etc. That happened through most of the 20th century, and most of these laws actually made the country a better place. So from the 1930s to roughly about the 1960s, when there was strong social legislation coming out of the New Deal that provided, again, minimum wages, maximum hours of work, that enabled people to organize unions, to protect and advance their interests, that was the greatest period of fairness we've ever seen in this country. It's something that economists refer to as the Great Compression in incomes, where, you know, basically millions of working class people were able to get a home, to send their kids to college, to have some lifetime job security and retirement. That's the system that's being unraveled now. And I think the Nobel Prize winning economist Paul Krugman has been very clear and helpful in the things that he's written about this, showing us that this isn't just some economic necessity, some, you know, blind laws of the market causing this, but it actually, the poverty that we're seeing now is created by social policy. It's created by a systematic dismantling of the social safety net and of deregulation in the years of conservative ascendancy, and it is also created by the systematic weakening of unions, not making it possible for workers to organize to defend their own interests. Administrators are dealing with many issues and many demands at the same time. And I know that. I mean, I was a chair of the history department, and so I know those. I understand those arguments. That students may be calling for new programs at the same time, or sports teams may want something, or faculty, are leaving and maybe want raises, or there's just so many things that they're managing. And so on that front, I'm actually kind of sympathetic to. I understand, that situation that administrators are in, and what they really need to understand to make the right choice is that this is a priority. This is a big priority. I'm just so impressed by students who could be doing other things, who could be concentrating just on their own studies, or trying to get ahead when they graduate, or being involved in social life on campus. The fact that you've made this a priority, the fact that you've engaged the administration, that you've engaged fellow students, that you're bringing faculty and staff to support you in this is just tremendously important, and it's really impressive to those of us who know about the history of social justice struggles in this country, because your voices really matter. I think in some ways, the most important work that you guys are doing is the stuff that doesn't involve much glory, and that's the going door to door in the dorms and talking to fellow students, or meeting with faculty, or just explaining your case to people, and one by one, bringing more people into the movement and to the effort. So I think that is the foundation and the scaffolding on which everything else is built. At the same time, rallies are incredibly important because they're a way for you to showcase that strength to other people and let other people see the numbers that are involved, the diversity of the group.